This episode, we review the end of a saga. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, you've tuned into the Chocolate Dollar Show.
Hailing from the Midwest region of the United States, we introduce to you the Chocolate Dollar Podcast.
That really messed with Grant somehow.
Gosh. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chocolate Dollar Show. My name is Jonathan. To my left,
Holy crap.
the man coughing is Grant. He'll never introduce himself. To my left, we have...
Yeah, Ed.
And then across the table from me is...
Noah.
And welcome to the end of a saga, Star Wars, Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. We're going to review it.
Would you guess that this is like the third time we've done the intro?
No, it's the first time. Because then I do the intro bit, and then we do the actual, like, hey, here's our names. Anyway, so there's no visual element to the... There's no visual element to this, which is ironic because I actually wore a Star Wars t-shirt before this.
So did I.
Star
We
Wars
all
3.
did.
But we're waiting for memory
Or
cards
Star
to clear
Wars-
off because we're...
And I also wore Star Wars Shocks.
You did, but those are... Shocks?
Yeah, in his car.
Shock Trooper.
Shocking.
Okay, so Grant, Eddie, and I did a dinner and a movie on The Rise of Skywalker, and you've kind of gotten like our base opinion on...
Did you guys have blue milk?
We did.
We did. Yeah. We also had a roasted poro. Poro. That's from
Porg.
Porg.
Poyo. You did. Yeah, it was rotisserie chicken, but it was...
That's funny.
And then we also had fruit from Naboo. Actually, we have some of the fruit from Naboo over on the counter over there. It's a pear.
Oh, yeah.
And then we had...
If Obi-Wan saw me do this, he'd be very grumpy. He's just like grabbing it with the fork.
we also...
Laughs nervously.
we also had Rebel rations.
Oh, okay, cool.
Like...
Beef sticks.
Did you have the self-making muffin that Ray had?
We had portion bread.
That's the best we could do.
Okay. You
It
didn't
was
have
just
a
like it was a
self-making
nice
muffin.
loaf of bread.
No. Where would we get that?
I mean, oh.
What?
Make it?
No.
It exists.
What were you
Does
talking
it
about?
though?
Yeah, that's a real prop that they use for that. It's not very tasty.
What did I miss?
In episode 7, the little self-making muffin that
Yeah.
she has
Yeah.
is a real thing.
Really?
Yeah, that's a real prop that they made for the movie.
I bet it's in an MRE.
I think what we had was much better than that.
Probably tastes better, yeah.
All right. Anyway, so three of us pretty favorable of the movie. One of us is not, and we'll get into that.
Listen, I don't want to make enemies today. I don't want to upset listeners. I don't want to upset you boys.
I mean, the movie already upset people, so
It
just
upset
go for it.
me. I have a visceral... You guys can talk about it. I will, at some point, if you guys want me to, I will go on a rant. You guys can talk about it for a
This
minute.
is all spoilers, by
Put
the
in
way.
some
Yeah.
input
This
at
is
some point.
the spoilerific review. If you want to hear a spoiler-free review, go watch the dinner and a movie. Otherwise, you can listen to us talk about it in full detail.
Kylo Ren carried the entire Star Wars series for the last, 5-6 years that it's been a thing.
Mhm.
He's the only character that I began to care about. And he did a good job.
He did.
The actor.
Yep.
That's about it.
Adam Driver did a good job.
That's my quick review.
Adam Driver did his best in this movie with what they gave him. He was amazing in 8.
He was pretty good in 7, too.
Yeah.
So kind of starting at the beginning with how everything went down.
The opening is so unmemorable of this movie that I
Light speed
can't...
skipping.
I agree.
I can't even... No, I know that happened.
Yeah.
But, like,
I
before
didn't
that,
even remember
what
that.
happened before that? I have no idea.
Kylo Ren goes to Mustafar.
I don't remember that at
Is that
all.
Mustafar or is that a
Yep.
different? Really?
Yep.
But there's trees.
Yep.
That's legitimately
It's
Mustafar?
canon that it is Mustafar. It's in a... So... Oh, I don't want to start this early, but...
Okay, wait. Well, let's just say
If you
that
get
the
it-
rating
just-
that we
just-
gave it was a 6.5.
Yeah.
And
you
then
guys
we all
gave it
kind
a
of
6.5?
Yeah, we all kind of
the way-
Out
blend.
of 10?
By the way, we started...
Oh, really?
We started doing
I
it.
actually agree with that.
Here's my comment. I think it's
Oh.
I think it's a 6. I
Yeah,
think it's a
it's a 6.
6.5 because of all the Star Wars movies that came before it.
No, it's a 6 for me. But like,
I think-
I'm honestly shocked that you guys gave it that low of a rating. I
It-
thought you
it
guys
had
liked
a-
it a lot
we
more.
might all-
That's
think-
above a
I
5,
think
so it's
I liked it.
it's this way, but it's
mean,
not.
yeah,
but like,
but, like-
it has a lot of glaring problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't make me like it less. Is the
I
thing.
guess should have led with that.
Okay.
Yeah, by the way, we started putting ratings on movies and dinner and movie. So from now on, there's going to be ratings and then anyway. So it's not a very memorable opening, but now that you're kind of talking about it, it's
that's when he's killing random people.
Yeah, that's the shot from the trailer.
Wayfinder.
Yeah, and then he finds Hexagal,
Mustafar?
Exegol.
Testicle.
and finds zombie Emperor clone ? And then
Snoke?
Zombie Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah, you said clone.
Yeah,
It could.
Not a clone.
We don't know.
I don't know that
Palpatine in some shape, one shape or form.
Yeah,
Was she
that's why I said ?
Palpatine?
Because I was like
Gladys
explains.
Palpatine.
Gladys Palpatine.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, not entirely happy about Palpatine being brought back because then it feels like it undercuts a lot of episode 6.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that it
agree.
brought me all the way down to I don't know.
It
It does, but it doesn't undercut.
It's
6.
super. It undercuts 6 a lot. It undercuts Vader's sacrifice because
I think
the Emperor's not dead.
That's why I was saying if he's a clone and you transferred his consciousness, all the fan theories
Then why
were.
didn't they explain that?
Yeah, no, they didn't explain a lot of things, and that's why
They didn't explain anything in this movie. They're
Well,
just
from
here, accept this.
This is a little different, but from someone who didn't watch the Clone Wars, having what's his name, Darth Maul come back with spider legs. To me, I'm like, that's lame. So, but for some reason, I kind of forgave this. So maybe it is a little more subjective.
Well, and the thing is too with JJ kind of going just really briefly going back to what you were saying a second ago. JJ Abrams, I love this philosophy that he has, but it also doesn't necessarily always work. His whole thing about the mystery box. Have you guys seen or heard about that at all? He has a TED talk on it. But basically he talks about how the mystery is what a lot of times leaves you wanting more, and that's kind of a philosophy he's adopted with a lot of the projects
The
that
problem
he
is that
undertakes.
Star Wars does not lend itself to that at all.
That's my point. I love
The
JJ
Force does. Star Wars itself does not.
Correct. So if he's applying that, I don't know if this is actually what happened or not, but if he's applying that whole idea of the mystery is what keeps something going, it doesn't quite land as well with the whole Palpatine. Where did Palpatine come from? Did he actually survive? Was he a clone? All that type of stuff. But
I don't care how Palpatine got from point A to point B. What I want to know is,
I kind of do.
I mean, I do, but it's just kind of it doesn't matter at this point. It just doesn't. It feels.
We just can't do it.
It's one of those things we have to just accept and move on.
It feels like a footnote of a footnote, and you're just all right, whatever. Now. Okay, but I know this isn't exactly the format, and we're supposed to be reviewing, but
that's fine.
If you were gonna trade, so if it wasn't Palpatine, would it have been Snoke, and would it have been Snoke that was cloned himself and put himself through the Force? So maybe a less deformed version of Snoke. What would have made a better villain?
Kylo. I don't understand.
Go into it.
This. This was a small aspect of my laundry list of problems. Kylo Ren was at a great place at the end of 8. He was the best part of 8, and I think that he himself was one of those things that very few people had any problems with. His arc through 8 is amazing.
I think I agree with that. Yeah.
And he, honestly, what makes him a great villain at the end of 8 is he doesn't think he's in the wrong. He honestly thinks in order for the world, the universe as a whole to be better, other stuff like the Final Order, Snoke, the Resistance, all of that needs to be done with, and then you just start afresh. Honestly, that's kind of a bit of Thanos, but I agree with leave him as the villain. Instead, what we get in episode 9 is this just back and forth, kind of just washed up Kylo Ren, who honestly, most of the characters in this movie, is a plot device for Rey. Rey is the only character in episode 9 that matters, and the movie is just every other character is pushed to the side, and they're just there for Rey to have somebody to talk to and be pissed about things with.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think what I like the idea of Kylo Ren's redemption, though, but I don't think it needed to be a
but
redemption. I didn't think it needed to be a redemption to the light side of the Force. I think it could have been a redemption to like save the galaxy.
How do you do that though with where he's at the end of it? Like what's your, because like I don't disagree with I think Kylo and they kind of set it up well throughout most of the movie, minus the whole okay he's in league with Palpatine thing. He is kind of the villain. Like he's supreme leader. They're doing stuff.
Not really. He's
I got somewhere
chatting
I'm going
with
with
Rey half the time.
I got somewhere I'm going with this.
Yeah.
And that's a fair point. But like, yeah, how do you conclude the story with him? Like, what would you have liked to seen? I guess because. Do you see them duke it out and he dies and stuff happens? Do you see some sort of redemption?
I don't
with Kylo
know
Ren,
that
how
necessarily he needs to die or Rey needs to die. I think you can have both of them live and that be fine.
I'm fine with either of them dying as well.
Right. I don't have a big problem with either of them dying. But I think that Luke kind of said it in 8 that the Force itself is more than just Jedi versus Sith. And I agree with that. With all the qualms that people have, with all the qualms that people have with Luke and his arc in 8, that was one of his best points that he made, was to think that the light side of the Force is only tied to the Jedi is vanity. That's what he says. That's just like absurd. And I agree. Like the Force, and you see that in Rebels and Clone Wars, that the Force through Sith, Jedi, light and dark, there's a lot of gray area in there too that the movies never really explore.
Yeah, hence
but
the gray
I
Jedi.
think that you could have had Rey and Kylo. You could have said that they were still dyads in the Force. I'm fine with that, even though it doesn't really make sense.
I mean,
I'm fine with that.
You can explain away why they're able to like
still
chat.
Force connect. Yeah.
I think that's
Force
fine.
FaceTime basically.
Yeah. Well, like transfer like objects. Too.
Yeah.
which is a really cool thing. I actually really like.
But
that
I think
from a
you should
filmmaking
have
standpoint.
just at the end of it just be like, there's light and dark. That's okay. Anakin brought balance to the Force, right? The balance in the Force is between those two. You don't always have to just have the good side.
Yeah,
I think
It doesn't make sense.
I think what they could have done is if they didn't want to kill people, they could have had Kylo Ren still be like, what if the end scene had Rey shooting lightning while being a Jedi, or Rey, like Kylo Ren throws away his lightsaber but has like digs up his old one, you know what I mean, like or something like that.
Yeah,
and then they have like. You just have some like duality to like each of their characters.
The moral gray area that I think a lot of video games and honestly some TV shows, especially with Mandalorian, being a pretty prominent like Star Wars show right now, just kind of showcases that gray area. I would have liked to see that of both of those characters, gives them a little bit more depth and like kind of realism that I think the Star Wars universe would be kind of nice to see that in the movies. Like, I don't think it's necessary and I don't want it to be overdone, but I think those gray areas of like, where do we make these moral decisions? Where is true light, true dark? Where's the gray area in that? I think that would have been nice to see. This is kind of, again, stepping away with the movie as a whole and our review of it, but I think that would have been nice to kind of see the balance of the Force actually realized. Yeah. And that's probably one of my biggest complaints is with this movie is there's so much potential, not only with this movie, but the new trilogy as a whole, that they, unfortunately, Disney, JJ, and Rian Johnson, none of them really sat down to plan this out.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
And it's even if it wasn't planned out, I think if they had the same director at the helm of all three of the movies, I think it could have come out.
I don't think it should have been JJ. JJ is a great producer. He's not a good writer. He's a decent director.
Yeah.
He's not a good writer. He can't finish a story.
Somebody else needed to.
I've said that every single time I talk about J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
Is he has
I agree
tons of
with you.
times when he says, "I love starting series." He loves to start a series and open it up to infinite possibilities.
Yeah, which he did.
And he hates.
Seven accomplished that.
He hates ending series.
And he's not good at ending series.
Yeah, he's talked about this.
And his
Yeah,
whole
I
mystery
agree.
box thing also plays into that
Exactly.
too. Like he loves ambiguous endings. not a lot of people do. Like the mass majority of audiences, I don't think like having
I bet he had a
open to
different
interpretation.
I bet he had a different ending, and it got cut on the cutting room floor due to
Probably.
Disney /
Kathleen
people.
Kennedy.
Yeah. It's very clear. Like they did not have a road. I mean, we were watching that video earlier, and they kind of joke about it. Like I don't think they really had a real roadmap from the beginning.
I
They're
think
just like,
Which
I
is
think
such,
7
like,
is fine.
Star Wars is better than that. Like, treat Star Wars with some respect.
I think
Yeah.
I think you could make 7 without a roadmap, and it would have turned out the same. I think after that, that's when you turn.
Yeah.
You sit down.
8 and 9.
Okay.
You should have
been like,
Now are we gonna what are we
yeah,
gonna
you should
do?
have been like, hey, that turned out way better than expected. Let's not screw this up.
Yeah.
Question mark.
Yeah, let's not make 8 and then try to figure out how to conclude
Yeah.
everything. Like, let's figure out what is 8 and what is 9 and then go from there. Like,
I think I like 8 a little bit more, and I like 7 just as much. But I do not like them together with 9.
Yeah.
I think I like them each individually. What if what if 8 was seriously just some side story that was happening? Sure. But 9 doesn't connect to 8, and it doesn't always need to, but it would have been nice to have some like nod to literally anything that happened in 9.
Yeah, no. 9 was just like, oh yeah, you guys didn't like 8? Yeah, none of it matters. That
yeah,
I
and
mean
then
that's literally
yeah.
I mean that's what they did. So this new sequel, it does some things that I guess people dislike with the Force, and I don't mind the new powers that they showcased.
yeah,
I have a little bit of a
think it's
problem with
awesome.
that. I'm going to talk for a second.
I do
Okay,
have one small problem that I'll talk after you're done.
The powers. I'm okay with transferring things through the Force. Interesting between the two. It's fun. It's a good story element. It adds visual intrigue. The Force healing. I'm putting air quotes on healing because originally all canon Force healing for Jedis was just Force healing, and what it was is you're using the Force inside somebody's body. The
midichlorians.
Yeah, we're gonna ignore that. Using the Force that they're connected to, and you're directing it to heal them.
Yeah.
And then the Sith did essence transfer. The Sith are the ones that are like, hey, I'm gonna take life force from Jonathan, and Noah's about to die, and I'm gonna give it to Noah.
Yeah.
And Jonathan's dead. Noah's just fine.
Yeah.
Or in some
Kinda
cases they would
necromancy a little
transfer.
bit.
Yeah, in some cases they would transfer to themselves, to somebody that like they cared about.
Yeah.
But most of the time it was like, I'm gonna kill this thing to make sure this thing's okay. I would have been okay with the Force healing if they explained it as like a Force. What is it? Dyad.
Yeah.
That was it? As a Force dyad power.
Yeah.
As like they can they're connected so they can transfer. Nah, she heals a snake, and after she heals the snake, she's like my
"Owie."
hand hurts.
Yeah.
And that like it just takes away from like, I don't know. I just think it's a dumb power
It-
to be like, I can take my essence and give it to you.
It's a
It's a plot device that I hate.
This also kind of opens up another. I'll pause with the Force powers. Come back to that, but the Force healing kind of opens up another problem I have with the movie as a whole. There are, I think, 4 or 5 death misdirects. You think Chewie dies, he doesn't die. You think Kylo dies not once but twice, and then he actually dies. So like he gets stabbed by Rey, she heals him. You thought he was gonna die? Nah. You think he falls off the cliff when the Emperor throws him? He doesn't die.
I see what you're saying.
Nah. And then he just like bleh, he just vanishes.
He gives all of
because
his life essence to
Sure.
Rey.
Whatever.
I do think it would have been
Rey
better.
dies, and she's not actually dead. Okay,
Because
going back to
Kylo.
the Force powers now. What the heck is with Luke's Force Ghost? Since when?
Since when can Force Ghosts catch
just
things?
catch things? So why wouldn't you just be like
Yoda and 8?
Yeah,
broke
well,
down
I mean,
thing.
the lightning thing. I'm fine with that because that's like manipulating the
I'm gonna
Force
make
almost.
I'm gonna
but
make
like,
the argument that he's manipulating the Force in the same way that he was previously.
but he straight up catches the
No,
thing.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm gonna say because he was the most powerful Jedi to ever live. That's what
Luke or Yoda?
Luke. I'm gonna make that argument. I'm gonna make that argument that's why.
Whoa!
For those of you listening, Noah just gave Grant the look.
No,
Are
but
you
like,
silly?
Huh?
no, but like
He redeemed the most powerful Jedi ever, Anakin. Anakin was the most powerful Jedi ever.
okay, but Anakin couldn't force project himself across the galaxy.
Yeah,
This is true.
But Anakin also didn't die by doing that, so
True.
you know.
okay. I just think
Fair
that
point.
I'm thinking kind of from Legends Luke
Yeah.
perspective,
Sure.
of like where he was that,
Sure.
you know. But like, I don't know. I'm okay with him catching things, but like, if he keeps doing that crap, I'm gonna be upset. You know what I mean? Like,
man.
what if would you rather have him like? What if he caught it with the Force and like threw it back at her?
I'd rather Rey not throw a tantrum and just chuck her lightsaber at her fallen TIE fighter.
True.
What?
Yeah, why'd she even need to do that to the TIE fighter? What did the TIE fighter do to
She
her?
just runs off to Ahch-To, which, okay, I get it. Apparently Jedi, they're always going to run off and hide from their problems now. Apparently that's
yeah, and then
a thing.
Luke's plot device of a TIE fighter or
X-Wing.
X-Wing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which they did kind of.
Okay.
They pulled that from it a little bit.
Before you go.
Oh, yeah.
So one of my biggest gripes with this new trilogy is power creep in Force abilities. So for whatever reason, Rey and Kylo are just good at everything. Rey from episode 7 was just straight up good at everything. Kylo is kind of like following her. He's tracking.
Yeah.
He but like especially in 9, they're just good at everything, and the Emperor is freaking all powerful. Like he literally force lightnings an entire fleet from his chair.
Yeah.
Like thousands upon hundreds of thousands of ships. What are you talking about? When has that ever become a power? When has he ever been that powerful? That's absurd.
Yeah.
So, what?
I think that was them trying to write themselves out of a little hole.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna agree with
Like-
what that is. Yeah, it was them being like, I'm gonna solve this problem.
And then even like the Star Destroyers, they can all destroy planets now.
Why weren't they?
That's a
popping off?
whole nother plot hole, but like
Why'd they put it only on the bottom? Why didn't they put it on the top? They could have shot literally everybody as they came at them.
yeah, I don't know, man. It's just there's so many plot holes. in this movie.
Potholes?
Plot
Yeah,
holes.
potholes.
But also potholes, yes.
So like, if we're gonna talk about Legends for a hot second, in Legends, Jedi's had Star Cruisers that this is Old Order stuff. Jedi's had Star Cruisers that literally didn't have engines. They were just holes that they controlled with the Force and jumped through space with the Force.
That's dumb.
It is, but it took like thousands of them to do that.
Okay.
It wasn't like just like one of them being like, I'm gonna move this thing.
Yeah.
It was like thousands of them. They would all meditate together
Group
and
meditation
fly. Yeah,
thing.
yeah. That's like the thing that they did.
That's dumb.
It makes sense in like the like canon of like how did they get across the galaxy before star drives? Kind of thing of like.
Okay.
Anyway, it's not a big deal, but like if I feel like they read one of those and was like, all right, let's do that with the Emperor.
Yeah. The Emperor could do whatever he wants.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
I don't know.
I have tons of small things that I think wouldn't have changed the movie overall, but would have made the movie better. Tons of things that would have like made the characters seem more conflicted, would have just driven home some points in less obtuse ways. You know what I mean? Like,
If we ran through kind of the characters real quick, because like you mentioned that Kylo's big through the whole thing, but this movie's really built around Rey, and then kind of how, if we start with the easier one, so to speak, with Finn and Poe, and with Finn you can throw in how Rose, and then the other
Rose has like 3 lines in 9.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
There's actually some like apparently official reason why that happened.
If it's not in the movie, I don't care.
had to study.
There are a lot
She
of
had to
there are a lot
study.
of explanations that the directors have given. There are a lot of like books that
if you
like
have to
explain
give
things.
explanations to fix your movie,
It's a bad movie.
No, I know.
Yeah, I don't. For the sake of talking
I'm
about the
just
review
putting
of this
out there.
movie, I know. I agree. I know those exist and I've read them.
I
They're
don't.
stupid.
One of them was the one that I saw was that
they needed a good enough leader at the base.
okay.
well, no, it wasn't exactly that. It was Rose or Leia needed somebody to help her at the base, and they thought like, okay, because Carrie Fisher is dead, we're gonna do some digital magic and do more with her, but they weren't able to do as much with her as they wanted to. So it just happened that like they cut a
Her
bunch of
entire
stuff
story got
where
cut. Okay.
Rose and Leia were together. Like that's the background as far as like production.
All I'm
side.
getting is her entire story was cut. Finn is okay with killing stormtroopers, even though he was a conflicted stormtrooper at one time. Shouldn't he care a little bit?
That's
Ed, what were you
definitely-
saying?
Yeah,
'Cause I
continue.
feel like we interrupted you.
Oh, well, this is kind of where I wanted to go, just
characters,
kind of
yeah.
character-wise, but I don't hate that as much, what you were saying, Jonathan, because like the Carrie Fisher stuff, when it was something with her and you obviously like saw her back or her leaving, I forgave that like immediately because I'm
Yeah,
trying to
because,
think
you
of a
know,
producer like
that's really hard. Yeah, I
yeah,
get
I'm
that.
just like, okay, well, I'm not going to be, you idiots, CGI that so I can make fun of your CGI instead of her.
right.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
I'm going to ridicule it either way. I'll just
That was one of the better parts of the movies. I actually thought like how they handled Leia wasn't bad.
To be fair though, I
Yeah,
still wish
I liked
Rose
it.
could have been in more, but
They
anyway.
could have put not that I'm like get rid of Maz Kanata, but literally take her
Shoot her.
and put
didn't like it in the
Rose
first
in every single spot
Yeah.
with a better line, a more thought out line. She could have filled that gap that Maz didn't need to fill.
Yeah.
I'd be okay if Maz wasn't in any of it. She was still just at a bar tending something somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see her at the end and be like,
I'm just
"You're
saying, like,
fine."
Yeah.
yeah, I think that you could have just filled her in more with.
Yeah, I agree. But that
Were you still
Stuff happened.
going on?
But
about
then
the
with
characters?
if we kind of go to Finn, how he was kind of tossed to the side in this movie, I feel like, and
Big
even
time. He was kind of the one of, if not the main character of 7. Like the whole movie kind of hinged on Finn.
Finn and Rey and their dynamic.
Right.
Yeah.
But like
and I
we
think
followed Finn, I think, even more than Rey.
Yeah.
and we talked
He
about it
brought
a
it
little
in.
bit in our dinner and a movie, but like the character, which I don't remember her name, but the main girl,
Jonna.
yeah,
The
Power
girl with the
Ranger.
horse.
who leading the other like rebel stormtroopers.
Yeah.
When they introduce her
Stormtrooper,
character,
not Power Ranger, the girl who rode the horses.
when they introduce her character at that point in the movie, I didn't want to like learn about another character. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm ready for some action and some wrapping up of stories. And then when they introduced her, I'm like,
Yeah,
I feel bad. I don't really care.
That's another thing too. Like, okay, it's the end of the saga. Focus on what you have already. Why do you have to introduce new characters?
They
Like,
added a bunch of new characters.
and here's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have an issue with like, okay, this character's a thing. Like, okay, maybe she can have like just a quick like introduction. You can use her later, but the fact that they had to like try and develop her a lot was kind of like
It's like we have an emotional connection that the watchers are somehow supposed to feel with and like work into
Yeah.
their brains.
I think that this is one of the things that I've thought about too. I think that they should have taken time with her and Finn. They should have.
You mean Rose or Jonna?
Jonna, the ex stormtrooper. They should have had some time, some sort of actual conversation about like.
Instead of, I was a stormtrooper, you were a stormtrooper. Wow, we're friends now.
which I think would have been a lot cooler of a story element had Finn had issues killing other stormtroopers.
I mean, I think they
Like-
could have, but they could have weaved that in then.
Yes,
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they could have been like, he could have been like, I've been fighting this war for a long time. The last few years,
yeah.
and I've been pushing it to the back of my mind. But there are stormtroopers out there that don't want to be doing this. They could have
How
added.
do I
on-
reach them or like?
Yeah,
That-
like
that
what
could
could I
have been-
like? What could I? Like, what did you do? Why are you?
We'll
like,
call on you in a second, Jonah.
I'm just saying. And then that was her scene, and then that would have made her more viable. And so like you could have put her at the end when she was, or you could have just put her as a cameo when they all jump in from like like at the end, all the ships.
We're seeing her
That's
dead at
like-
the end,
and-
and,
which
then
I
like
still-
the
which I
panning
still
and be
don't
like
like.
a moment.
Which I still don't like. You know what I mean? But like they
Yeah.
could have
So-
jumped the ships in with her piloting one or whatever.
So, in kind of going off of that, one thing that could have been really cool is if that were a bigger plot thing, they know they're stormtroopers that don't want to be doing this, but they're doing this out of fear or whatever. You could have had a scene or just like a brief little thing where like they convince a whole huge bunch of the stormtroopers, maybe not like all of them, but like a reasonable amount to be like, we were former stormtroopers. You don't have to be doing this. And then you have some of the
there was
stormtroopers.
no payoff
turn-
for that line, for that kind of plot thread.
Well, but I'm saying if you had a bunch of other
I know,
stormtroopers
yeah.
turn sides,
I
at the end,
think
saying
you
there was
could
no
have done it earlier. Instead of having Chewbacca be captured, have him be captured, and then have them turn. They could have turned a platoon, and then that platoon could have been
couple of them, or at least,
wiped out
yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
And that adds emotional weight to finding other stormtroopers later.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's so many things. There's so many small things.
Man, Disney,
I
give
can-
us a call, man.
Yeah.
Like, if you have ideas, give us a call.
We'll fix your
We'll
Star
figure
Wars
it out.
problem.
Okay, you want to talk about fixing a scene? Okay, this. This is off the handle here.
Okay, we can go off a little bit, then
Okay.
we should come back to the
Here's
review in a
me
minute.
going on. The scene where Rey finds the Force GPS.
The Sith Wayfinder.
Uh-huh. Yeah, when she finds it and she sees herself, okay, as a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
Okay? What they should have done is they should have started a scene with her with her lightsaber fighting her Sith self. Okay, started that, and then there should have been that should have continued into a scene where she's forced out of that room, and then her Force Sith self is shooting lightning at her other self, and then it like not like wipes, but essentially like her eyes are cleared, and she's the one, and she's fighting Ben. She's fighting Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren's the one on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, so she like made like more like
Interesting. Okay.
it would have been more impactful. Would have been more interesting to see Rey like she thought
she's fighting herself.
She thought she was down here. She thought she was this one, and it would have made the Force duo more interesting.
Yeah.
More connected. You know what I mean?
That's actually
is,
really interesting
that kind
idea.
of actually goes to another point that I have. The action in this movie is probably some of the worst action in any of the Star Wars movies. And let me explain.
Okay.
It is poorly shot and poorly planned. So
I remember seeing something, and it seems like there's no longer than like 4 seconds between cuts in space battles.
Yeah, especially
just-
with lightsaber battles. All the lightsaber battles are just boom, boom. You're like really close up, and you see the lightsabers hit, but like you're not seeing any of the choreography. Like literally, episode 1 and episode 1 has, for all of its problems, has some really well choreographed lightsaber fights.
Well, and that's
even
what the
episode
prequel trilogy
4
brought back to Star Wars.
Right.
Good Star Wars.
Yeah, and even
lightsaber battles.
episode 4, like, even though it's not anything, it's just them like going back and forth because they didn't have the technology at the time. It's an emotional.
They're both old.
Yeah. And so episode 9 now, fast forward to 2019, where we have all the technology in the world, all of the choreographing and like experts in their fields and action planning.
And Star Wars that can print money.
Yeah, and you've got little shots of close up where you're just cutting back and forth, and it's bad action between lightsaber fights, and then they're running on this Star Destroyer now, and they're throwing stuff, and you don't even know where stuff is happening, but everybody's getting shot at, and there's explosions, and it's a Michael Bay movie. Like, come on.
I will always say that
I wouldn't say it's quite Michael Bay.
No,
but
it's
I see,
not
I see
quite,
where you're
but
getting
like
at.
you
I see
know
where
what I
you're getting
mean.
Along those,
I'm going to interrupt for a second. I'll always say with action movies, the closer the shot and the faster the cuts, the worse the choreograph, the worse the acting was, the worse the fight was.
Well, the reason they're doing that is to cover up the lack of
exactly.
Exactly.
So I think that it's just
some more bang for your buck.
It shows that it's rushed.
it's very telling that they just did not choreograph anything.
What were you going to say, Ed?
Yep.
One thing that I was going to say that I was thinking coming out of the theaters is that when, particularly with the space battles, I don't really know with the lightsaber duels, but it seemed like it was pretty, in my mind, it would be, okay, this part of the space battle, we're going to see, carnage that the Final Order is just destroying the Resistance. This scene is going to be all, good feelings. Resistance is wiping them out. And it didn't really seem to be that much actual, like, hey, you're not like they're both sides are like killing each other. It seems more like, this is the happy mood. Hey, we're winning. This is the sad mood we're losing. And at least in my mind, I was like,
it was
okay,
like a
this is the
montage.
shot where I'm just going to see, wow, they're getting wrecked.
Yeah.
And then in the other one, now they're wrecking the other one. There's
3
no
had one of the best
You'll
space
blow-
battles. I think if you're gonna like, just the intro is better than a lot of the.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
And even episode 8, like the intro of that, the space battle's really cool and well shot. This I don't remember any of the space battles in episode 9. I really don't.
There honestly were not any space battles. There was just that like upper atmosphere.
Yeah, and
battle
there's
at
a
the
bunch
end.
of
like
lightsaber
dogfighting
fights.
stuff. And it's-
There's a bunch of lightsaber fights, and none of
Yeah.
those are memorable either.
Yeah.
They're just always throughout that movie, throughout episode 9, Kylo and Rey are fighting each other with their lightsaber pretty much every other scene, and like all of it is just psh, psh,
Yeah.
psh, psh, like they're just that's it, and there's
mainly about their
nothing
dialogue
going on. Yeah,
too, and it's
it's just like what I'm so bored. If all I wanted to see was flashing lights, I would buy some glow sticks and just swirl them around my room. And I'm getting more entertainment out of that than watching this movie right now. That movie, somebody else take the wheel. I'm mad.
All
I'm
that being said,
steaming.
like, so we're kind of trashing on Rise of Skywalker, but I in the end though, I found myself happy with it.
How?
I don't know. I can't give you honestly a real explanation other than like
I was okay with the end, the very end.
I think
Not the hugging, but the very like
when she says I'm Rey Skywalker, because that's dumb. That's not well.
I was
written.
actually okay with that.
I was too.
I thought I was going to be pissed off, but
I think it's interesting, and I'm okay with it. But at the same time,
But is that
it's
okay?
Just, no. At the same time, now I watched that and I was just like, okay, that's okay. But that is entirely just a plot device for like episode 12 when like you have Yahoo McGee digging up the lightsaber on Tatooine. Okay, you know what I mean? Like
Maybe
it's
okay.
pointless.
They shouldn't touch the Skywalker stuff.
I don't
after
think they
this.
will.
Any Star Wars stuff has to be.
It's
completely
gonna
new.
no, but it's completely just like I put these here for a reason, and it's gonna happen.
So
it's gonna happen. It's not sacred. Nothing sacred to Disney.
yeah. So
That's true.
So here's then. Is this where we're at with Star Wars? Is Star Wars just now okay? Are we going to enjoy parts of it? Is it going to be the sum of its parts, which is mediocre at best? Is that where we're at? Is that Star Wars now?
I'm gonna say this. I bet people felt the exact same way coming out of like episode 2.
Well, 2's garbage.
That's what I'm saying. No, people came out.
Yeah.
People came out and they're like, "Whoa, is Star Wars?" I don't really know why I didn't watch it, but "Whoa, is Star Wars?" Like they like.
Yeah.
That's what I would come
I see
out
what
if
you're
I would come out with.
Yeah,
This. I'd come out with the
could-
same thing.
You can make
then
the
I-
argument before the sequel trilogy right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd make the argument that like we rose to a higher height after a dumpster fire of 2, so I'm hopeful that they'll pull their heads out of their butts for the next one because like they did for 3.
Okay, well then,
There's a
but that's
next
kind of
one.
my point. Is the best of Star Wars is Episode 5, which is amazing, and then like 5 is great. The original trilogy as a whole is fantastic. Prequel's not great. Sequel's not great, and so like we're left with, as a whole, Star Wars. Even though we all love Star Wars and it's a cultural phenomenon, it's not that great as a movie experience. They're not good movies. None of them are. They're okay. And is that honestly, is that what we're okay with? Just having mediocre movie experiences and being like entertained. But if like I'm gonna go to see a mediocre movie and be entertained, I might as well go see in Fast and Furious. Like honestly,
yeah.
because
I
I'm
think- well,
gonna
at the
have
same- I
better,
think-
well-paced action.
At the same time, I think are we asking too much of Star Wars
Yeah.
to be something
But
besides just a movie?
Yeah.
Well, then
that's what I'm.
But
that's kinda
why
what I feel
can't we
too.
hold Star Wars to a higher standard? Like we should,
Well, okay.
right? We should ask and want more from it.
Going down that route, though, if you're talking about the sum of its parts, Star Wars is not just the movies now. It's,
Correct.
It's the Mandalorian. It's comic
TV
books.
shows,
It's
yeah.
TV shows. It's books. All that type of stuff. You can look at all of that combined, and when you're
The
talking,
score that carries all the movies.
yeah, exactly. So kind of what Grant is getting to, like, are we so? The movies themselves, are we holding Star Wars to more than being good movies? And then you're talking about, Star Wars as a whole. Is it just mediocre now? I don't think Star Wars is as a whole mediocre because you have the other stuff outside of the movies.
I
Okay,
think, I think the problem is
that's what
now-
you need to define there.
The problem
Because
is now that
movies
it's a
are
cash
the
cow.
the cornerstone, and
Yeah.
where most of the money comes from.
But it's evolved to
Are
more
we-
than that now.
Yes, but I'm saying the movies. Are we just gonna be okay from now on of the movies being, yeah, that was fun, and then we forget about it and go on to the next action flick?
I would have to be with Noah on this.
Mm-hmm.
That, whenever I'm like, oh yeah, I really like Star Wars growing up, and then even when I show them 4, and I'm not trying to trash 4, but they're usually not that interested.
Yeah.
And it reminds me on how like I watched it at the right age.
Yeah.
Got all the Lego Star Wars, and it was like it's still the universe of Star Wars that I
lives
like
on
more
nostalgia.
than watching the movies. Really, it's like the universe and
They
the
haven't
the nostalgia.
created any new emotion for Star Wars, which is, I think, one of the biggest downfalls of it recently. I think they could have. I know people are like, "Oh, I just want I just want the action. I just want like space battles, lightsabers." But they could have, with their characters of actual like moral pain, gotten something a little bit more out, even if it doesn't hit the kid demographic like they're trying to.
And right, and like and Star Wars has so much potential.
Yeah.
Like I said, everyone loves Star Wars. We all have deep childhood experiences with
Yeah.
Star Wars. We all have memories of watching them as a kid, and we have nostalgic connections with it. So why can't we expect more from it?
I'm not disagreeing with you on that. Like,
Yeah.
I think we should expect more, but
I don't want to.
We
I don't
can't do
wanna
anything
just
about it
sit
now.
here- I know we can't really do anything about it. But like, why Why are we just sitting here and accepting it and being like, yeah, this is a fun movie and that's the best Star Wars is going to be? Because that sucks. Like, honestly, that is a sad reality that
I think it is like
Star Wars is mediocre.
I do really try to empathize with the fact that there are so many people who like Star Wars and that there's so many different things to like balance and weigh in. Not saying that they shouldn't be, that the people making these movies shouldn't be able to put in the time. I mean, we go to work 40 hours a week kind of thing. Like if you put in 40 hours a week for 3 years, hopefully you know a little bit about something that you're going to try to make a movie about.
Yeah.
I feel like I get the vibe that going into 7, and this is just all Ed Merrill's brain. I'm not reading articles, but they go into 7 and they're like, we got this great idea, we'll boot it back up. And then kind of once you got on, then they're like, well, we got to keep going and got to keep going. Yeah. And then even with the changing of directors, it's like, well, they're not going to cancel and not make number 8 because number 7 was mixed reviews, or after 8, mixed reviews.
Yeah,
they're
like
not gonna,
they went into it knowing they're going to do a
they're
trilogy.
like, well, we got to make the next one. And then you get this whole like split reviews. Oh, well, then we need to make it better. Split it. Yeah, correct back. And it's like Mario Kart on the N64 when you don't have it because your parents didn't get you one. So you just play and it's just like, I keep falling off because I don't know how to steer
control it. Yeah.
And so it's like,
and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about like, if you're going to start a trilogy of a movie, like a series, have a freaking roadmap from the beginning.
I don't think you need I'm going to be honest. I don't think you need a roadmap to do a trilogy. I think you need a first good movie.
Yeah, and then a roadmap.
And then a roadmap.
Yeah.
I think you can build off of something that you made with no idea where to go. Well,
so I think,
I think you should probably think it all out.
Yeah,
this should have at least a general idea of like, this is how we want to end it. I don't know, like
with the Emperor, and then been like, hey, you know what we could do? We could throw some like Sith symbols on in like Rey's background or something like that. Like you could, you could have made the Force Vision, put her in like the Emperor's robes in 7. You could have like put her like looking out into space from the same window that's on the Death Star. Yeah. You know what I mean? You could have like
same type of shot from like episode 4 or whatever with Darth Vader's helmet on the black drop. Yeah.
Yeah, you could have like just pushed a lot more to have a payoff of, oh, Palpatine?
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, Palpatine.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay, so this might be comparing apples to oranges.
They're both fruit?
Yeah.
Why can't they be compared?
It's the same. You know what I mean? Can we compare maybe for a second Marvel to Star Wars?
Yeah.
So Marvel with what, 14 movies?
22.
Where did I get 14 from?
Yeah, so like you kind of cut it a lot there.
Back in 2014, maybe.
Yeah. 22 with Endgame.
Okay, so with 22 movies, right?
23-ish.
Endgame came out this past year, 2019. They actually finished a 22 movie saga. There were a couple missteps maybe, but for the most part,
like 6 bad movies in there.
Yeah, the most part, the quality is quite high, and they finished it really, really well. They had a strong, powerful ending, right? That took planning. Obviously they didn't know everything that was going to happen.
They
didn't know everything out. Right.
Iron Man and you make Captain America,
why can't
and then you're
Star
like,
Wars
well,
do
now
that?
we're going to connect.
Star Wars can't do that with a third of the movies. What do you mean?
Okay. I'm gonna say that the original prequels get not a pass, but a pass because George Lucas was the only one
right. Okay, ignore the original trilogy and the prequels then, because those are their own things. They have different directors.
Four stood on its own because not George Lucas, because his wife was an amazing editor, and then 5 because they had a good director, and then 6 because they kind of just followed 5's lead. They all have reasons why they're good. The prequels have reasons why they're bad, and it's just a person.
But they at least have huge world building, and you see like
and everything's
it's
cohesive.
Universe. Yes. Yeah. So my question is, with 3 movies then, they understand what Star Wars is, right? Kind of the way Marvel looked at the comics as a whole, and they understand what these characters are to people. Why couldn't Disney look at the 3 movies that they're going to make and go, oh yeah, we can do this.
Yeah.
And then just plan.
Instead of
because
doing
Kevin Feige as one person was like, starting with Iron Man, we're going to go to the Avengers, Thanos is going to be in it, Infinity War. And then, boom, we have this cultural phenomenon of Marvel where literally 20 years ago, Marvel was bankrupt, right? Yeah. But now they are the cornerstone, the epitome of pop culture, where everyone knows like Iron Man, Thor. Captain, these are huge pillars of our pop culture now. I don't understand how Star Wars, which was always a pillar of
room for like a few months,
right. Star Wars was always a pillar of pop culture, always there. It's been,
and I would argue it still is. Like
it still is. Yes,
it was at the turning point. It was at the perfect time where everybody wanted to talk about war and violence, but they didn't want to see guns.
Yeah,
and
it actually did have something to say, you know.
Yeah.
It starts this whole revolution of science fiction and science fantasy, space fantasy too. Yeah. So why I can't wrap my mind around how they messed it up.
So do you know what I
don't understand.
There is a sound bit from a lady that works at Star Wars, LucasArts stuff, and she's like part of the creative team. She made a statement that was Marvel and DC have such great deep content that they can pull from. Star Wars doesn't have that. We don't have a deep history.
I heard that, and it's like you have the entire like extended universe books.
You can canonize any of that at any time, literally through a movie.
Yeah, you don't have to even use it. Just at least like
you have stuff to pull from.
Yeah.
That's BS.
Pin like at least the names of the books on the wall, and you'll get some ideas.
So that's kind of an interesting thing to look at here, because like I feel like we've kind of been targeting JJ a little bit in terms of this. Kathleen Kennedy has been.
It was her idea to bring Palpatine back.
So you see, I don't know. Like I just gotta say, like if there's one person who I blame for the mediocrity of Star Wars right now, I think I'm gonna look at Kathleen Kennedy, because she doesn't.
I think a lot of fans are, honestly.
Yeah, Abrams, somebody else needs to take her spot if they're gonna do anything moving forward. Which
Abrams is fine. He made the first movie, or not first, but 7. He made it. He made it well. He gave up when he knew he needed to, which is after the first movie.
Yeah, and he knew himself. To his credit, he knew himself. Like okay,
then I feel like 8 happened, and 8 happened with a director that has good vision, has good writing, but it just wasn't gelling with Star Wars as a whole.
Yeah.
And then I feel like we got to 8, and we had a director, which I don't remember who it was. Was it
for 8?
Yeah, or 9.
No, we had 9 was Colin Trevorrow.
Yeah, we had a director
who is not a good writer or director.
They put a lot work with him. They did.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, we're gonna go with Abrams again. And I feel like Abrams had to come in the middle of, after essentially 2 directors from 8, and be like, what story do you want to tell? And he's like, well, why don't we wrap up all the things? And they're like, well, Palpatine.
Well, here's the thing. We have Emperor Palpatine back.
Yeah,
we
already got the actor. He already shot his principal film. We're doing Palpatine.
We already got the voiceover to use for Fortnite, so
that's
what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
We've kind of gone off from episode 9 itself and kind of looked at
which we did with Endgame too when we reviewed it. But like in the end, I don't know. I don't feel like I hated Rise of Skywalker as much as you did. And I think that just kind of boils down to like personal preferences. It scratched the itch for me where I needed it. And then there were some things where I'm like, I don't really like the direction they went with it. But ultimately in the end, I didn't leave the theater feeling like this is awful. I'm so pissed off about stuff. And I don't know. I'm
not saying woe is Star Wars, because Mandalorian just finished its first season a week after Star Wars came out, and it's amazing. It's the best Star Wars experience I've honestly had in a long time.
Which I think that they actually planned that completely with having the Mandalorian come out after they got some test
they wanted
reviews,
to buy
audience.
Some goodwill a little bit.
Yeah, they saw the test review audience, and they're like, well, we're going to send it, but hey, everybody loved Mandalorian, have that come out right after.
Yeah. And a testament to like Mandalorian too, like, so Amanda's dad is traditionally a like Star Trek over Star Wars person because he doesn't feel like Star Wars really has good character development. That's another thing entirely.
Kind of agree with that.
He watched The Mandalorian and he's loving The Mandalorian, which I think is really interesting. How it's like, okay, yeah, maybe it's a good time to step away. Yeah, by somebody like by a Trekker, like they're just like,
I think so. Dave Filoni, who is one of the showrunners, him and Jon Favreau is the showrunner for Mandalorian. He was also in charge of
Clone Wars and Rebels.
Dave Filoni should be in charge of Star Wars.
Yeah,
I don't know why he's not.
Replace Kathleen Kennedy.
I don't know
with
why
Dave Filoni.
he wasn't in the first place because he did such a great job with Clone Wars. Everybody loved Clone Wars
because he made a cartoon. That's why.
But he clearly understands Star Wars at its core.
But looking at it as like a business industry thing, some high exec at Disney is going to look at them and be like, "You made a cartoon. What do you know?"
Which is unfortunate.
And they're going to look at Kathleen Kennedy.
It works.
What had she done?
I don't know. Produced other things.
Yeah, like maybe she was her idea for Disney to buy Star Wars. I don't know. Maybe, and that's probably why they're like, "Yeah, you can take it." But I agree. From a creative standpoint, Dave Filoni should
be in charge. Yeah, he should be the Kevin Feige of Star Wars.
Yeah, and I think he would do a great job.
I think so.
My final statement for Star Wars Episode 9 is that I left the theater thinking, hey, I enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. And then, ever since I've left that theater, I've been thinking more and more about it, and there is more and more problems.
Yep.
It just continues to snowball into more like, that makes no sense once you actually think about it.
Yep.
It's an enjoyable experience to watch. Mm. But now that you actually think about it,
yeah.
How are you going to go back and watch it again and be like, oh, that was good? I don't think I'm going to go back to the theater to watch Star Wars Episode 9.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's my initial reaction when I came out was like, yeah, I guess that was fun. Like,
I think I
thought about it.
I think still at my core, I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do. I think I still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm in love or would say it was great. I think
it hasn't gotten to the point where I'm going to begrudgingly say like that's not a part of the Star Wars.
I think
no, I'm not going to be that toxic fanboy where I'm like I don't accept that as canon.
I think that it doesn't beautifully bookend a series, the trilogy. Yeah. But I think it bookends it enough where it leaves us at a spot where we can move on.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, Ed?
There's not anything horribly left open. I think it's a nice enough bookend where you can look at it and say, all right, yeah, trilogy's over.
Yeah.
Cool.
We can move on now. We can do something Old Republic if we really want to,
and
like pre-Skywalker stuff.
Yeah, you can just talk and be like, Kylo Ren was...
different end of the spectrum, you know?
Yeah, but you can talk and you can be like, Kylo Ren was a cool character. Rey was pretty cool too. Yeah. You know, like you can be like that. You can't, you know, like because they're bookend.
BB-8 was adorable.
They're end. You know what I mean? Like I think it ends these characters arc and is final enough that it makes me be like, okay, yeah, sure, yeah. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree.
But it has problems.
Okay. Yeah, it was kind of my reaction to where once again coming out of the theater I was like, oh yeah, that was. I knew right then that it wasn't just like blown away. I would not have ever said blown away, but I still was like feeling like, oh yeah, it was good. Because like I said, I kind of liked the ending. That being said, with you guys were talking about the Marvel movies, all 22, and I still think even up till the end, it was like good stuff. I don't think I liked Endgame as much as you guys did. Not that it was bad by any stretch of the imagination, but there's still a few things in that where I was like, maybe I'm a pickier movie watcher now, but
it's rubbed off on you a little bit.
Yeah, but in watching this one, I was just like, oh yeah, I didn't really like that or didn't really like that, but coming out felt good. The other thing I was thinking about too is that just the different like in real time when these came out in late 70s, 80s, 2000 whatevers, and then 2010s, almost 20s. That's like spanning enough of a gap. My dad always comments on it, even though I don't really see it. He's just like, well, the thing is, in episode 4 and 5, they're using lingo that was a common then. And then these actors nowadays are trying to talk Star Wars, but it's not really our lingo now. I can't explain any more on that. That's one thing he hates that's like why he doesn't like these movies. He's like, all their lines seem forced. So that's him. But I also think if you're trying to wrap up like who all likes Star Wars, I think, the Marvel universe has been really big, but it's kind of been 20 years at the most of Marvel stuff, as opposed to the of like the current, not the comic books, but
the movies have been like 10, 15 years.
15 years, yeah. But with Star Wars, you're at least 40 years of.
It's 50.
It was kind of funny because my mom leaned over 42 years. They say this celebration only comes around 42 years, and she immediately leaned over and be like, "That's when the first one came out." I was like, "You're awake." But, I said, that's more my mom than Star Wars. But either way, I was just like, oh, well, 42 years of fan, so to speak, and not every single person.
That's actually really interesting.
But you're trying to appease a larger age group, different backgrounds, and all that too.
It's trying
it still could have been better. But
that's kind of something I was thinking is like, it's kind of trying to be a people pleaser in a way where it's trying to please hardcore fans from the beginning, hardcore fans from now, new people who they're trying to get into Star Wars, like all that time. It's trying to do all of that instead of just picking one thing and running with it. Yeah. Right? Like, I feel like you just got to pick, okay, are we going to cater to...
I think they just need to tell their story.
Yeah. But like, their story needs to be reflected in that or some way. But,
or stop telling stories.
You either die the good guy or live long enough to be the bad guy. And honestly, with the Avengers, I'm kind of like, oh, this is tangent. But with Star Wars 2, I'm like, I almost don't want to watch any of the new things because I kind of get disappointed. Even with Marvel, I'm like, oh, I'm not as appeased anymore. I just kind of want to back off. That's me, probably not most. But I'm like, oh, if I run away now, then I'll remember the good memories.
Star Wars fatigue after your superhero fatigue. Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that to some extent. Like, I've kind of felt that way with Marvel movies for a long time, if I'm being completely honest, where, like, I'm not really that excited about them until, like, the week that I'm preparing to see them. Other than that, it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, that's going to be... I'll be excited about that when it's close to time, but I'm just, like, until that time. And that's why I kind of feel that way with Black Widow. Like, I'm sure I'm going to be super hyped for that when when I'm getting ready to see it. But right now, I'm just kind of like, it's another Marvel movie that's coming out. Like, there hasn't really been a whole lot of movies that I've been super pumped for lately until I was preparing to see them, if that makes any sense.
Kind of. There's just a lot of movies.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We didn't really go into Babu Frick.
No, great character. Best part of the movie.
It did wrap things up nicely.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Star Wars is dead.
So are we taking our 6.5 rating and moving it to like a 5?
No, we're gonna keep it. We're gonna keep it.
So I think you guys probably think Episode 9 is better than the sum of its parts, and it seems like Grant and I are like, nah, it's worse than the sum of its parts. No, I think it's exactly where it is with the sum of its parts. I think it's just a bad movie.
I give it 6.5 because it gets I'm just saying it's a 6, but it gets that 0.5 because it stands on the shoulders of the original trilogy. I think that it doesn't tie in well, but I think the only reason I'm saying that is because I think the original trilogy holds it up just by being there,
being existent in the universe.
And that's kind of what we talked about in the Dinner and a Movie as well. It's like, because of what it is, it gets a little bit of a
clout of Star Wars.
I just don't think that that's a thing that we should necessarily give to movies. Just because that's my rating. I know.
But what I'm going to say is the clout of Star Wars, any of the clout that Star Wars could have gotten, is now over.
Yeah,
where no other Star Wars movie is going to get a bump, like this one could because
this has a bookend. It's
no, because this exists.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, anyway, sorry to give such a downer on that, but that's
make a better movie, Lucasfilms,
and get rid of Kathleen Kennedy, put Dave Filoni in there, and then do something awesome with Star Wars. Make Star Wars great again. Anyways, thank you guys.
yes.
Thank you guys for tuning into this episode.
It'll be huge.
Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the Chocolate Dollar Show. I'm going to mute Grant's mic before he does something loud.
Good call.
Yeah, check out our dinner and a movie. Check out the other stuff we've got coming out. We're gonna try to.
I'm less toxic in the other ones, I promise.
Yeah. And until next time, this is Chocolate Dollar signing off.
Thank you for listening to the Chocolate Dollar Podcast. Check in next time.